Johannesburg's most anticipated creative festival and Constitution Hill's Basha Uhuru Freedom Festival will offer a jam-packed lineup of the sounds of Freedom Music Festival, creative immersions and art-filled experiences for its 2024 edition. It'll happen from the 27th to the 29th of June. The theme this year of the 2024 edition is 30 years of creative freedom. Now, the festival will highlight the role of young people and their participation in creative and social movements. And joining us this morning, we've got a film writer amongst many other titles to her name, but we'll call her that, and the festival curator, Mmabatho Montsho, in studio. What a pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is an exciting moment, and especially as, you know, I've been reading articles about this, and, you know, when there is anticipation about this festival coming up, it's the fact that you are here, but you're reigniting it and giving a very different feel to it this year. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the festival is one of the biggest festivals for the youth in Gauteng annually. I'm specifically in charge of the film festival titled Vision of Freedom Film Festival, and this year we're recognizing students. So this is the student edition, and I've curated a whole list of beautiful student films.
Well, I mean, that must be very exciting to have a look and see the talent that's upcoming, and also what they've come together with. How did you go about choosing these specific films?
Okay, so we had an open call inviting students from 2021 to 2024 to submit their films. So we went through these submissions, and then also, you know, with curating, you do also have to source so that your lineup kind of like makes sense. So I spoke to a lot of lecturers, university people, and from that process, I wanted to kind of select films that speak to the challenges of the youth currently. Yeah, so I think we've got a lineup that speaks to that.
So also, this is quite an interesting one, and not one that is unfamiliar, because everybody at this point is celebrating 30 years of freedom of democracy here in South Africa. But I want to know from an arts point of view, and particularly from your point of view in film and talking to the freedom, what does it mean?
Hugh, you know, let me start with why this year we decided to focus on the student edition, because this is 48 years since the 1976 uprising of the students, and 30 years since democracy. The students are kind of still facing the same issues, you know, at schools, access to education, access to quality education, and the conditions, you know, of the environment that they're in. And, you know, when students go to film school, they have to work so hard to make those films happen. They still have to raise the money. And I wanted to hear from them. I wanted their voice to sort of shine through, to say, these are the things that we're going through, but this is what we have to say about where we are 30 years post democracy. And the themes have been so powerful, you know, battling against drug addiction, you know, studies, access to studies. And there's also like a coming of age, a lot of coming of age themes, finding yourself in society. I think the talent is amazing. I'm very impressed and optimistic about the emerging filmmakers and what they have to say and what they're going to put out there. Yeah.
I mean, you know, just looking at the youth of today, they're very different. They are fierce, they are fighters, they are fearless. I'm stealing a word from the screen over there, commemorating the fearless spirit of the youth of '76, because this generation are just as fearless. They demand acceptance, and I respect them for that. I really do, because I know I came from a generation that was, I just accepted things the way they were. This generation don't. Are you feeling that in what they're submitting, the themes that you're, if perhaps you want to elaborate, or maybe a few of them that have been chosen?
Okay, so we've got Lakuchonilanga, which is a film by somebody who was nominated and actually won a Student Academy. Wow. Right? And this looks at the 1985 state of emergency situation where a woman is looking for her missing younger brother who's a student activist. And then followed up by that, we play a smaller details, bigger picture, which is looking at the then upcoming 2024 elections and speaking to the youth about, okay, are you voting, why are you voting, and just the impact of voting from a personal and a historical point of view. And then, like I said, we've got two coming of age sort of films. One is looking at masculinity and one is looking at femininity. And then there's another one looking at access to education. And there's a very beautiful film called Mmabatho, which is told from like an 8-year-old's point of view, using rocks, as characters to tell a story. I mean, these films are so unique. Yeah,
I love
they're
that.
unique. They've got voice, and I think when you weave them together, that Q&A we're going to have with the filmmakers afterwards is going to be quite fascinating, and just reveal where they are politically, creatively, and what their hopes and aspirations are.
I love that, because when you speak to these creatives, they really are the voice of the current circumstances we find ourselves in as a country. It always has been that way. That's what's been so beautiful about the arts and the freedom of art, because it is freedom of expression. It's like, but this is freedom of expression, and it is. It's allowed and it's beautiful and it should be cherished. What I'm also enjoying, and I'm not sure if any films from the continent have been chosen to be shown. Is that also a part of the film festival?
This year, this year we're only looking at South African, well, not only looking at, but those are the ones that ended up on the selection, right? But it was open to everybody. Yes. And why that's important is because we've got 3 production companies, Black Brain Pictures, Burnt Onion Productions, and Sisanda Henna Films, who are going to be watching these films and selecting interns that they're going to bring onto their productions. So we also, just trying to showcase their talent, but also give them access to job opportunities.
Is it so hard? I mean, in this industry, it's always the first industry to suffer. Whenever you see budget cuts, whenever you see people, I feel your uncomfortable laughter, but it's not laughter, it's real, because
it's very real.
It is this industry, we've always said it, it is driven by passion, it's driven by an individual that'll do anything, include starve, to make their dream happen. And yet it shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way. There should be the investment into the sector.
Absolutely.
Because as Africans, as South Africans, as we narrow this down, the true talent in Africa is the creative spirit. And that, we see it all over the world. We see it and people love it, and yet we don't invest in it.
And it encompasses so much, just to be able, for example, to have the news here, to speak to the nation. You need artists to be able to help you to do that. It encompasses technology, and we do something, when you write a story, you do something that says, what if? What if this and that happened? That means we are thinking about a future. We are testing society. We are testing ideas of what could work in society. And the ideas are there, especially in the independent space. You can see that there is a clarity of voice, and all it needs is investment, is regulation, and education. If that support was there, I promise you we could boost the morale of the country in such amazing and powerful ways.
You and I are on the same page about that. I can feel the passion on both sides, whether we're talking about the freedom of arts and the expression and investment into it, as well as the freedom of media and news. I mean, we're seeing job losses all over the place with shutting down of print publications, and because corporates don't see the value in it. But if you stop seeing the value in arts and the freedom of media and the freedom of all of that, my gosh, you lose the soul of the country and the truth in the mix of it. To get back onto the conversation about the films, because I'm interested to see what happens to these films. So they get chosen, they get shown, and they may be brilliant, but then what happens? Do they just go into the archives of what was, or is there a platform for them to go further?
That is the journey of the film, and that is why it's so important to have the right kind of investment, because there is investment which has its own agenda, but we need investment that is trying to empower those voices. So we are speaking to a channel. We're still in the negotiations, so I can't say yet, but we are hoping that the selection of films will be broadcast onto the screens for people to see. But like I said, these are student films, so some of them are thesis films, some of them are like your third-year films. Really, they are the filmmaker's CV. To say, this is what I can do. Please give me a job, or please fund me, invest in me. So films are like, short films are like a CV to say, this is who I am, this is what I can do.
Love that. And when we talk short films, what are we talking about?
10 minutes, 15 minutes, and the longest one I think is 18 minutes. But together it's 8 films that make up an hour and a half. So it's like a feature experience, but you're watching all these films.
That's so nice. All right, so all of the information is available on the website, no doubt?
Yes, it's available on the website, bashauhuru.co.za, on the social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's no way you can miss it.
Yeah.
If you follow Basha Uhuru, you search for it, you'll find everything you need about the schedules, the movies that will be shown, and it's not only about the movies. There's so much more that happens at Basha Uhuru, and there's music that's coming up shortly as well. That I'm looking forward to hearing from. But Mmabatho, what a pleasure. Lovely to have you here in studio and talking to us as well. Thank you so very, very much.